Tim Leben, Tim Gesinnt.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so today we're going to start on Chaf Gimel Amid Beis, the second to the bottom line. Kisalik Rav Kana. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. That's list of our learning, we should have the base of English immediately. So we had this whole machlekes about Rav Hanina and Rav Chisda, things becoming batal. Do we look at the thing that's becoming batal, or do we look at the thing that's making it batal? That was relevant for if it's going to be the same type and turn into the other type. Remember that? Anyway. So Kisalak Rav Kana, when Rav Kana went to Eretz Yisrael, Salak means to go up. Go up means from Bavel he went to Eretz Yisrael. Ashkina lebnei Rav Chia de Asvi Kamri. So he found the children of Rav Chia, first two children, Chizkiah and Yehuda, sons of Rav Chia, that they were saying, Isaran shechalku v'inichu bebisa v'nagat fol yam bechem emahu. If you had an isaran, that's the measurement that a mincha is usually one isaran, the measurement of flour. It's a tenth of an ephah, 43 eggs size, and it was divided, and it was put into a bowl, and the bowl it's held in the bowl, but it's not touched. So it's two halves of this. It's like two things of dough or flour in this side and one on this side of the bowl. Then comes along a Tvil Yom. The Tvil Yom is someone that was Tameh but went to the mikvah already. He just needs to wait for nightfall. And then it'll be completely pure. But right now he's like in the interim. It's like the first mission in Brachos. And he has to wait for Teisa Kechavim to eat his truma. So he's Tvil Yom. He's slightly impure. So Mahu, what's the din? Question is, the Tvil Yom touched one of them. He didn't touch both of them. Do we say Kitanan Keli Mitzaref Masha B'Seichel HaKodesh? Say that a keli combines what's inside it. Sneeze. To consecrate it, that's Hani Mila Hechadle Nagi Badadi. That's when it's touching each other. Or maybe we'll say that because these two aren't connected, even though they're in the same container, they're not connected. They're not touching each other. These two parts of the flour. So we would say that it doesn't combine. And we'll say that only one side is tummy, not the other one. I shouldn't use the word tummy. I should use the word puzzle. Puzzle means that it's only tummy enough. It's only tummy, but it can't make anything else. The puzzle means that it's tummy, we can't make anything else tummy. Tummy means that it can make something else. If it would be tummy, then when he touched it, it could make the vessel tummy. It won't be able to make the vessel tummy anyway, but it will be able to make it tummy with touching. Well, that's a big deal. The Tvil Yom, but the Tvil Yom only makes it possible. It doesn't make it tummy. So we say that it combines it. We were learning before that one vessel, things in one vessel become combined. So we're saying this, it combined also for Tumah. So he quotes a Mishnah, Amar Lahu, Amar Lahu. So he responds, who responds? Amar Lahu, Rav Kana says to them, because they were asking this question. So Rav Kana responds, Amar Lahu Iyu. So he says to them, Mi tanan keli mechaber keli mitzaref tanan koldo. Does it say that the keli joins them? That would mean that if they were touching, mechaber has an implication that they're already touching. Mitzaref has an implication where they're not touching. It says, it doesn't say keli mechaber. It says keli mitzdaref, which means even if they're not touching, it joins them together. It should mean that that both sides of this mincha would become tamei from the tefillin. There's an interesting Tosfos here. Tosfos discusses. We know that Rav Kana went to Eretz Yisrael to visit Rabbi Yechanan. Now, Rabbi Yechanan is a Talmud of Reb Chia. So we're assuming that the Bnei Reb Chia are older than Rabbi Yechanan. By the time Rav Kana was by Rabbi Yechanan, it says that his eyebrows or eyelashes were very long. They had to hold it up, which meant that he was older. So we're thinking now. So, does Tosfos suggest that there's another Rav Kana? No. Tosfos is suggesting that Rav Kana went a few times. Yeah. Okay. No. It sounds like he was older, but in the story he couldn't see. He didn't see him originally. Only afterwards he saw him. It's that story at the end of Baba Kama. Okay. We're holding by. Interesting case. We're talking about two halves of the Isaran are in this Bisa. Bisa is the bowl. The Tfiliyim touched one. We said that the other one becomes Tameh. But let's say that he put in a third half. They have a third half. Put in another half of Isaran in between these two. And the Tfiliyim touches one of them. Will the other two become Tameh? Says they can't both become tummy. The only one of them will become tummy. The only one that will become tummy was the one that was part of this mincha. The other one is totally extra. It has nothing to do with this. The keli joins everything together to be one. That's only what's necessary to be part of this. But what's not necessary for this mincha, what's extra, what they have to take out of here, that's not going to become tummy because it's in the keli. We say like this, that the Tvil Yaim puts his finger inside the vessel, but he doesn't touch. But it goes inside between the pieces, between the two parts of the mincha. Puts his hand in. Do we say that because it's under the lip of the vessel, so it should become tummy or not? Amar lahu. So Rav Kana says back, "Ein lecha davar shemetame me'avir ela klei cheres bilvad." Can become tummy. The only thing that gives off tuma without touching is a klicheres, an earthenware vessel. Earthenware vessel becomes tummy from inside. If you put something in it, in the ear space, it becomes tummy. This is not an earthenware vessel. This is a bisa, a mixing bowl. Okay. Hadar ihu boy minayo. Rav Kana's turn to ask questions. He then goes and he asks them questions. Ma'alek waits misel zeh. Tirf deraisa derabanan. can you do kmitza on a mincha when it's split in half? When you told me that when you touch one side, the tefillin touches one part of this, the other part becomes tummy as well, becomes puzzle as well. So we said that because anything that's in the bowl is mitzdarif, it all becomes one. So you touch one, the other one becomes puzzle. So 1 second. Is that just the chumrah that we say, that you have to be strict? Or is that even lakula? Is it a din darabanan, that we're strict about this? The rabbi said you should be strict. Or is it a din daraisa, that anything in the bowl is considered one? Din daraisa would mean that I can do kmitza on this part of the mincha, even though the other part isn't touching it, because it's in the same bowl, so it's all one. Does it go both ways? Does it go l'chumra and lakula? Or does it only go l'chumra? That we say that everything in the bowl is one. Kohen Gadol, his mincha was given half in the morning, half in the afternoon. That's not our discussion. That's just, look, every day of the year, some of the Keteris was taken. They made 368 portions, right? So that's not considered a 368. Each day they had the full portion. Kohen Gadol, he had half of it in the morning, each half was a full portion, right? It wasn't yeah, that's the way. But here, talking about that, I have a mincha. This is the mincha. It's divided in half. This mincha is divided in half. It has to be brought like this, and you're doing kmitza on one half of it, and the other half isn't touching it. So Amru Lai, he said to him, Zulei Shemanu. This question we didn't hear. We don't know the answer. However, Kiyetzi Shemanu, but we did hear something similar to it. The Tanan started in the Mishnah, Shnei Menachos Nikbetzu, and Nisar Bezu Bezu. Two Menachos. That the Kmitza, the Tanan, this is our Mishnah, if you remember. This is the Mishnah we had 2 days ago. There you go. Beginning of the Mishnah. Two Menachos, Shleinik Betzu, that the Kmitza wasn't done. B'Nisar Bezu Bezu, and they got mixed up. Im Yachalik Metz Mizu B'Fnei Mizu B'Fnei Mikseris from La Psulas. Ki Yachalik Metz Mikseris. So if you could do the Kmitza, then it would be kosher. And they're mixed up, right? Two minchas are mixed up. The Gemara is going to make an assumption here that when it's mixed up in a way that it's mixed in. It's like blended in. It's like your Dr. Steiner is the two soups. What was it? The two soups that they poured together, or this soup and that soup. So it's mixed up in a way where the part that you're doing the kmitza from is not actually touching the part that the rest of the mincha, because there's a swirl of the other mincha that's mixed into it. So the Gemara is going to make this assumption, and then from that we're going to say, so it goes like this. In terms of the michlos, but if you can do the kmitza, you know that this is a full kaimitz over here. You can do the kmitza, then it's going to be kosher. Amai hachtamar of halinaga, but the fact is, it's not touching the rest of its mincha.
Yeah, I just want to confirm. What we're talking about here is a mixture of flour and the oil that was mixed with it, right? With the sage, we were mixing oil with flour. Right. And it's in some kind of a receptacle, and it's before the chametz has been taken.
Right.
So it's like a big lump of dough at this point.
Right.
Right. And we're somehow dividing it up this from that.
So how they cut off a piece to make it into pizza? They cut off a piece and then they're going to swirl it and they spin it. And so they cut the whole thing in half. Use that thing.
Okay. So it's been cut in half. And one of those halves is tummy?
So we had a bunch of cases. Case number 1 with Rava, and that wasn't Rava introduced. This is Bnei Reb Chia. They said that a Tvul Yom touched half of it. and they concluded that the other half, Rav Kana told them that the other half becomes tamei because it's in the same bowl. Then we had another case. We put in a third portion, a third bulk of dough in between, and one half becomes tamei. Does the two other halves now become tamei? They said no. Rav Kana says no. Only one of them becomes tamei, because the other one is not necessary for the bowl, so the bowl doesn't combine it. Then we said that let's say he puts his finger in it. The tamei person puts his finger inside, but it doesn't touch. Is it going to become tamei? So he said no, that doesn't become tamei. Now Rav Kana is asking a question: if you do kmitza on two menachos that are mixed together, I'm sorry, not two menachos. You do kmitza on this where it's split in half. Will the kmitza help for the other half? So they bring a proof from the Mishnah that says that if you have two menachos that are in the same bowl, and you can do kmitza on one of them and do kmitza on the other one, they'll both be kosher. And the Gemara makes an assumption that they're mixed in a way where the part that you're doing the kmitza on is not touching the rest of its own mincha, because the other mincha like swirled inside. So, and nevertheless, it works. So you see, if it's in the bowl, it's going to help. So
the big question here is whether the bowl combines the
that's
because one, if one becomes tumor, the other does also. Whether the bowl combines them, even if they're not touching.
Right.
That's the big issue.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
But if we take it back, like for example, when there was extra oil, then the oil could have been extra oil could have poured out. If we take it back, wouldn't it mess up everything?
Yeah, maybe it could pour it out.
And what about the bowl itself in this discussion?
The bowl itself. You're asking if the bowl becomes tamei? So for that, we'll say because we're dealing with a tful yom can only make food tamei. Can't make a person or a bowl tamei.
Okay. And there's all derabanan, this whole discussion.
So that was part of the question. When Rav Kana asked him back, he says, is this discussion derabanan or is it deraisa? From their answer, we would only know that it's a din derabanan, because the fact that we consider it tamei, we could say that that's just a chumrah. Now Rav Kana asked him back. It says maybe it's a din deraisa.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can do kmitza on one side, even though it's not touching the rest of it. We consider it so. If you can do kmitza, that means you can we consider it combined, even lakula. That would be a din deraisa.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah. So, Amar Rava says that it's not a good raya that you're bringing from that Mishnah, from our Mishnah, because Dilma Begushan Amachalakim Asin Kemasrik. Maybe it's all still attached. Sin Kemasrik means that it has masrik is a comb. Maybe it's a little bit after mincha's here. There's other parts of the mincha, but ultimately it's all attached, sticking out here, protruding there. But ultimately, it's all attached. So we were thinking that you're taking the kaimetz from a part that's not attached to the rest of the mincha. We say that that's not necessarily so. All of that was based on an assumption. You can't prove a halacha based on an assumption. They have a picture of a comb. My Haviala. We don't have an answer to the question if you can do kmitza on one half, another half isn't attached. Amar Rava says Tashima. Tanya was taught in a brayso that says V'her mimeno min ha'mechuber shlo yavi yisrael m'shnei kelim liyikmitz. Hab'klei echad d'mir shnei kelim kamatz. It says in a brayso. Brayso says V'her mimeno. He will remove from it. He will lift out do a kmitza from it. And mimenu, from it, means all in one clump. It all has to be attached, which means that you can't take from two vessels. You can't bring an isaran that's divided into two vessels and take a kaimitz out of that, because it's not all in one thing. Mimenu, from it. It doesn't say from them. It says from it. You can't use two kalim. Where it says, the example that you gave, which would be a problem, the example that you used was two vessels. Why didn't you say if it's in one vessel and it's divided inside this one vessel? Probably because, why didn't you use that example? Because if it would be in one vessel, it would be acceptable. The whole problem was if it's going to be two vessels. But if it's one vessel similar to two vessels, which means it's in the same vessel, but it's just cut in half and it's divided, then we would say that it would be acceptable. So Rava has an answer that you can do kmitza on a mincha when half of it is when the two halves are divided, as long as it's in the same vessel. Amalei Abaya says to Rava, this is a conversation Rava and Abaya to get to the final conclusion here. Dilma shnei kelim hechidami. Maybe when the Brisa said two vessels is a problem, maybe the two vessels that it's referring to was really all in one vessel, two vessels in one vessel. Hechidami kigan kviza bekava. That they used to have wooden vessels, so they were able to drill out into the vessel different compartments in the same vessel. So in the vessel they had part of it was like a measuring thing. Kviza, there was a smaller vessel, bekaba, and a larger vessel. Even though maybe it's heaping over the top, Rashi is learning that it's heaping over the top. Even the mifsak mechitz the kviza mitatoi. But the fact is that when you go inside the vessel, there's a wall in the two vessels. There's different compartments in the vessel. So that's why it's going to be a problem. But if it would be two vessels in the same vessel, or one vessel similar to two vessels, which means that it's inside the same vessel, just it's separated. Maybe what the Brisa is alluding to.
Upside down bunt cake with the inside filled in.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
That would be a
The
vessel
mincha.
in a vessel.
Uh-huh. The bun cake is that thing that has the hole in the.
Right. But normally that's not filled in.
Right.
So if you fill it in, it's make it upside.
Oh, interesting. So, but
one was the ionic or electrolyte solution, and the other was the non-electrolyte, non-ionic solution, the sugar and water, which I don't remember what it.
So here here we're talking about the arivta. We're talking about a rifta shel tanagolim. This is a trough of where the tanagolim, the like in the chicken coop, they have two things. They have their food and they have their water, and there's a mechitza there in between, but it doesn't go all the way up to the top. So therefore, it still is connected inside the vessel. They're both inside on the lip of the vessel. They're still within the lip of the vessel. The first case was where the compartment goes all the way up to the top. So therefore, the only way they combine is from above. So that we said that it's not connected. But if it's kliyacha dumya de beis kelim, but if it's one vessel similar to two vessels where it is connected inside, then we would say that it's going to be acceptable. Aval hacha, but over here, the loinaga klal tibaylach, over here where it's not touching, we still have our question. Abaya saying that Rabbi, you didn't answer the question. You quoted a Mishnah, you quoted a Brisa, but the Brisa is not necessarily answering the question that we have. Let's say it's actually not touching. Would it be considered acceptable to do kmitza on one without the other? The Brisa spoke about two vessels, which is mashma that if it's all in one vessel, it would be fine. That's talking about when it's in a vessel, one vessel, but it's still connected. Or when it's not touching, that we don't know. Okay, we leave it as a question. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah. Tzirif Keli v'chiber mayim mahu. Rabbi Yirmiyah always throws in a little twist to make it more complex. He says, let's say we want to do two things here. We have part of the we have three parts to this mincha. 3 half isarins. 2 halves are inside the vessel, and they're not touching. I have another half outside the vessel, and it's not touching directly, but there's water that's combining. There's some water that's a little puddle that's connecting what's in the vessel to what's out of the vessel. So he's going to touch one of them. The vessel is going to combine it. The water is going to combine it. This is what's that Goldberg machine? Rube Goldberg. He has like these machines, and this knocks this and this knocks that, and then ultimately you get your breakfast in front of you. After it wakes you up with the washing, it washes negavasser for you. So here those things like these alarm clocks okay, so so he's asking, will it extend from one to another? Excuse
me, we learned this before, but I don't remember where it had to do with with the grapes, and then the grape juice went down from the final thing into the vat, and the question was, did it go retrograde up?
Yeah,
so it's the same,
similar to that.
Yeah. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or is it just touching the vessels?
It's touching the mincha. It's touching one half of the isaron inside, one half outside. Yeah, it takes some imagination. Maybe we'll say that it's
so beautiful.
That it's flowing over the lip of the lip of the vessel. It's touching one part of it as it's flowing over, and it's touching the other half of the isaron outside. Well, do we say animil de gavoy? We say that's only what the vessel combines it. That's only what's inside. Gav means inside. But what's outside loy? What's outside it doesn't combine. Ideal makiv the mechaber. Or perhaps, fact is, it's connecting it. When anything that's connecting is going to be connected, and the outside would be tummy. Bim tim tzalaymar, and if we'll say given the mechaber that once it's touching. Chiber mayim etzir of keli v'nangat folyam v'chutzmao. Let's do it the other way. Let's say that the tvolyam touched it, the outside one, and then because of the water, it's connected to the inside one. Now the question is, does the other one that's not even touching the water, but it's inside the vessel, should that become tummy? Trying this both ways. When did we say that a vessel combines? That's only when you touched it inside. But if you touched it outside, maybe it doesn't combine. Maybe there's no difference. The fact is, you touched it outside, it makes the one that's inside possible, which makes the other one possible. Says Teku. Leave this as a question.
Good question.
Yeah,
because did we learn already that if one of them was already bustle inside, that the other one wasn't, that the true yum, if he retouches it, doesn't change the status of the second one? But we didn't learn that yet.
you did.
Okay, so that's kind of like the same question, just a variation.
Right. You find in the Gemara that Rabbi Yirmiyah's questions usually get to the very essence of what the issue is. Like he asks in a way that you can figure out what's really the main issue here. Oy Rava. Rava has a question. Isaran shechalko v'nit mechen men v'nicho v'bisa v'chazit v'chach nagabay seitame. Maho. It turns out that when we were saying that the vessel combines both parts to become tame, that's only if the act of becoming tame was when they were both in the vessel. But if one of them was touched by a tful yain, and then it gets put into a vessel, it doesn't contaminate the one that's next to it. It's only if the tful yain touched it while it was in the vessel. Then we would say that he touched it while it was in the vessel, that becoming tame combines to everything that's in the vessel. So now the question is like this. Let's say the tful yain touched it when it was outside the vessel. Then we put it in the vessel. Now it's there with something else in the vessel. It's not touching it, right? But it's in the vessel. And comes along the tful yain and touches it again. I thought you were saying. So what happens here is a very interesting question. Mi amrina and savalei tama. Do we say that it's already saturated with its tuma and it can't absorb any more tuma? So the tful yain touching it now does nothing because it's already full of tuma. No more tuma can be added. Or do we say no? Do we say that now the tful yain touched it, and because it's adding tuma to this, so therefore the tuma will now extend to the other one? Or do we say what the tful yain is doing now is nothing? It was already tuma. Yeah. Something. Turns out that adding to it tuma is not really going to happen, but because he's touching it, maybe we'll add tuma to the one next to it. That's our question, right? In relevance to the one that's next to it, there's a significant difference. I think the Rebbe learned that Amar Rabbi Kiva Ashechem Yisrael. Remember that song? Amar Rabbi Kiva, Ashechem Yisrael. Anyway, in there there's Ma'am Mikveh Mataras Atmeim. Afakadosh Baruch Hu Mataras Yisrael. Just like the mikveh is Mataras Atmeim, also Kadosh Baruch Hu is Mataras Yisrael. I forget exactly what the questions were, but the Rebbe has this talk on this, and one of the points that comes out is just like the mikveh could be matar someone that's tamei, even though there's a bigger tumah that he has that's not going off, but you can still remove part of the tumah. So, like even if a person's tummy mace, but he can still go to the mikveh for other things, take it off. Because Baruch Hu Mataras Yisrael, Hashem also cleanses us, even if part of us is something along those lines. And maybe Chaim remembers. Yeah. Okay. So here we're asking, even if there's a tumah already there, and you're adding tumah. So does that we say that there's any significance to that and relevant in relation to the other half of the mincha that's in the mixing bowl? Amalei Abaya. So Abaya says to Rava, do you have this concept? Do we have this concept of savala tuma, that it's filled of tuma, it can't get any more, no more tuma? But nan, you have a mishnah. Sudden tame, if you have a sheet, that's tame medras. Medras means that it was either stepped on or slept on or sat on by a zav. Yeah. So it becomes a medras. Now, the rule of medras is that it takes on, just like the zav is the avatuma. Tumas medras becomes the bed sheet itself becomes the avatuma. It's a very strict halacha medras. Yeah. Usually it takes a step down. Over here, it becomes the same level as the person that. Contaminated vasavilin, but instead of using it as a bed sheet, you switched it into a curtain permanently. You made it into a curtain. So tarmina medras. The only thing that could be tummy medras is things that are sheets or chairs or beds, something that's sat on. But here it's vertical now, so it's not can't be used as a bed. So it's going to be termed in a medrash. I will tell me maga medrash, but you have to recognize that it was still touched by a medrash. So there's a one step removed. Something that touches a medrash as a step removed from the tumas medrash. It still has maga medrash. Maga medrash can contaminate food and drink. Medrash can contaminate people and vessels. Much more strict. Well, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Be'ez medrash nagazeh. What are you talking about to touch the medrash? Which medrash did it touch? Elashim naga bayazav, tamei magam azav, ki naga bayazav miyatame afil lebesayf. Amai lemasav letama. Okay. We're talking about the zav touched it as well. So it has both issues here. It has the medrash because he sat on it, and he also touched it. So
touched it afterwards, after it became
no, together. Right now we're saying together. We're going to get to it. Whatever the case is, whatever we're saying is, we're saying that it can have two tumas on it. It can have the tumas medrash, which is very strict. It can also have the tumas maga medrash. So why don't we say that it's fully satisfied, fully saturated with tumah, and it can't accept another tumah? Amalei mimai dahaishim naga bayazav lebasa medrash still makami medrash have it. Davitumah chamura al tumah kala. Maybe it went the other way. Maybe first he touched it, so it had the lesser tumah. Then he sat on it, so now it has the bigger tumah. So that's how the lesser tumah was able to get on it, because he touched it before he sat down.
Are we asking? Is the Gemara asking this because we just brought the case of the Tful Yom who retouched?
Exactly.
So this is kind of trying to make an analogy.
Yeah, it's Abaya saying that once something is, there was a question here if it's saturated from tumah or not. Abaya saying that from Rabbi Yossi we see that there's no such thing as being saturated with tumah, because it can still have a maga medrash even though it's medrash. He tells him back, he says, how do you know that it was a medrash first? Maybe it was first maga, then it became medrash. But over here, both of them are the same tumah. Maybe that doesn't apply. Touched it once, touches it again. It's the same level of tumah. Elami sefer, rather, if you read further, you're going to see that there's this concept of savala tumah. That we don't say savala tumah, that it's satisfied. It's sava is saturated, literally satisfied. But it's Misayf. It says, "Ma'id Rabbi Yossi b'shnei sedinim ha'mekupalim u'menachem zeh al zeh yashav zav aleim she'al yin tamei medrash v'tachn tamei medrash u'maga medrash." My lema savalatama. We're saying like this: there's two sheets. They're folded. He sits on the top one, and when he sits on the top one, we say that all the ones that are under him are all become medrash. They're all supporting the top one. They all become medrash. However, what happens to the bottom one is that it touches the top one, so which means it also has maga medrash and it's also medrash. So it has both. It touched the top one, which is a medrash, and it's also a medrash because it was supporting the person that was supporting the zav. Even if there's a bunch of mats or sheets, one on top of another, and he sits on the top, they all become contaminated with medrash. So what's happening now? How does the one underneath become maga medrash if when he sat down on the top one becomes medrash? How does it become maga as well? It's already saturated with tumah, with the more serious tumah of medrash. It says hasam bevasacha, sacha bezachazeh. That's not a question, because maybe if it's simultaneous, maybe both tumahs can take effect. Over here, it's one after another, and there's no additional severity to the second time that the Tful Yom touches this mincha.
I understand when someone is over in Aveira that they're chayav a worse punishment. I forget what the name is for that.
I'm like,
come lend me the Robin, all right, then anything less than that is automatically included.
Right.
So why doesn't that apply here and not even ask these questions? It's a medrash already. So what do you have to tell when you ask even about mother?
That we have a special pasuk. Come into the Ramani. There's a special pasuk. It won't apply to Tumah and other
Can't,
things.
can't even make a heck issue.
Amar Rava. Yisaring shechalku va'avad echad miyam b'efer shachar tachta v'nimtza rishon. Shloshtem menachem bebisa v'nitma avad nitma avad rishon mitzarfin. Okay. Case now is that Isarim got divided, and half of it got lost. I knew I shouldn't have cut this in half. Whatever the case is, half of it got lost. So he designates another part, another half. Now he has 3 Isarim. Now we have 3 Isarim, and they're all in the same bowl. If one of them becomes tummy, it'll be said that the bowl combines the tumah onto the other one, right? Problem is now we have 3. One of them, one half, is 3 halves. One half is not really part of this because it was only designated until we found the part that we lost. So it says like this: Nitma avad. If the one that got lost becomes tummy, the person touched that. So which one would it go? You have to have A, B, and C. A is the part that was always stayed there. Well, let me see if I can do this with the letters that are here. There's the avad, there's the mufresh, and there's the rishon.
A, B, C. Maybe we can.
Let's do it. Let's do. I wanted to do with Rashi Tevis of the way the Gemara is using it, but it's not going to fit. So you have A, B, and C. You have the one that always remained in the bowl, never got lost. You have B that got lost, and then you have C, which came in was the replacement for B. So let's say the person that touched it, that was making a tummy, he touches B. So B and A could combine because that was the original mincha was A and B together. B got lost, so we had to replace it. But now that B becomes tamei, so who does B combine with A? B and C have nothing in common. They were never a mincha together. So, avad barishon mitzdarfin, the one that got lost in the first one, which is B and A combined. Mufresh ein mitzdaref, but the number C, the part that was separate, designated to replace it, that doesn't combine. Nitma mufresh. Let's say C became tamei. It's all in the bowl together. So then mufresh rishon mitzdarfin. C and A become tamei because C was a replacement for B to combine with A. So C and A are one mincha. So C becomes tamei. A is also tamei. Avad ein mitzdaref. But B has nothing to do with C. When C was around, A wasn't around. So they're not one mincha together. Nitma rishon. Let's say A becomes tamei. Shnei mitzdarfin. Both of them combine. Also, they both become tamei because A was meant to go with B. He got lost. A was meant to then go with C. So which means that A is combined to B and C. Abaya amar afil nitma echad me'am nami shnei mitzdarfin.
Right, so in the end, the last case, all 3 of them are tummy.
Yeah, just 1 second. Nitma rishon shnei mitzdarfin. Abaya amar afil nitma echad me'am nami shnei mitzdarfin. He was saying this is Rava. Rava Abaya argues, and he says that they're always going to all combine. My time, they're all in the same bowl. What's the word biksa mean? Bayis echad, one house. All of them residents of the same house. Bay Aksa, Bay Tsar. It's a small squeezed house. Biksa. B'chein in Kmitza. The same thing will apply to the Kmitza. If you do Kmitza on one, what will it cover? Will the Kmitza cover? Kametz min avad, shiara v'rishon nechalim. Did Kmitza from the one that got lost, which was B. Then B and A are now allowed to be eaten. Mufresh ain't a nechal, but C can't be eaten. Kametz min mufresh. If you took the Kmitza off C, so shiara v'rishon nechalim. So C and A could be eaten, but avad ain't nechal. But B can't be eaten because that had nothing to do with C. Kametz min rishon. You do Kmitza on the first one. So according to Rava, Shneim Einan Nechalim, and you can't eat both of them. Since the first one has a connection to both of them, now the Kmitza is now trying to cover an Isaran and a half. That doesn't work. You can't cover an Isaran and a half, so therefore you can't eat anything.
There's an extra one just in case got lost, and then the other way that it got lost, and then
It's similar to that. Similar to that.
This reminds me of Gerushin. He divorced B. C came along, but before anything happened, B came back and he remarried B. So they're still together. But I had B gone away, and in the interim, he married C. B can come back, but too late because he can't have anything with B.
Did you hear that Yavama song? Did I send it to you ever?
I don't remember.
You have to look up.
You sound like you did, but I don't remember.
If you look up on like Spotify or something,
Yeah.
you look up Yavamas.
Yeah.
And there's a song over there.
It's called Yavamas?
Yeah. It's like
Spotify
like Suki
or
and Ding.
YouTube?
No, it's a music thing. It's a Suki and Ding. And I'll try to send it to you. But it has like this. Has this very funny song.
For some reason, I remember you bringing this up. Go weiter. I'll see if I can.
Okay. According to Rava, there's a problem here because, well, actually, according to Rava, the first part that you took the kaimet off is going to be acceptable. The problem is the other two are problematic because it can't cover a nisaran and a half. So which one does it go to? Which one is it going to cover? So you can't eat any of them, either of them. Says it never. No matter what the situation is, whenever a kmitza is done in a bowl like this, you can't eat any of the other parts. My time, they're all part of the same household. Maskefler of Papa has a question. He's a Talmud of Abayim.
Just one shaitel?
Yeah, it's on the same thing as just one shaitel. Yeah.
And we'll all be free.
Yeah, so that's you're in the right spot. So.
Oh, then everyone could hear it once. The commercial to go away.
Playing the Yavama.
Skip. Here it comes. Oh, it's in my headphone. I gotta get rid of my headphone. Sorry.
I'm guessing it's not there.
Yes, he's not here. Yeah.
And Chaim is not saying anything for the
now you
moment.
wouldn't be hearing the alarm.
Okay, here we go. All right, let's go back. Come on.
Is everyone behaving?
Take this off. Well, we're trying to shut off my headphones so you could hear it, Chaim.
Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
Oh, what a perfect scene. My Rebbe and I proudly turned the page. I guess I had high hopes that I would someday be a sage. I started with a great geschmack. How hard could it be? It all looked pretty simple. as far as I could see. But then I read the words from the Mishnayos that I used, and in under 1 minute, I was utterly confused.
Okay, that's the first part.
Now, if a woman's husband meets a quick, untimely end, Gibum and Chalitza would eventually depend. I don't understand this, and I'm not one to complain. My Rebbe said it's simple, and he went on to explain. If Mr. A goes out and marries Mrs. B, and they give birth to a sweet boy, let's call him Ricky. Mrs. B then passes on, and A marries C. They go on and have a son, and they name him D.
Okay, this goes on till the end of the alphabet. Goes to the okay. So Maskefler Papa B'Shirayim Didei Mian Cholim. Yeah, the original one that you did the kaimitz from, is that going to be edible? The ikadanka, the kaimitz like of danka means a sixth. It could be used as a coin, but it's also over here. Just means a regular sixth. What it's saying is that when you took the kmitza off the first one, there's three sections over here, 3 piles. You took the kaimitz off the first one. Now that kaimitz is meant to cover now A, B, and C, pile A, B, and C. Problem is that it really only covers B or C. It can't cover both of them. So we're thinking that you can eat A. You did the kmitza on A, right? You can eat A. B and C have a problem. It says no, it can't be that B and C have the problem. Even A has a problem. Why? Because we're saying that since if you divide the kaimitz into thirds, you divide the kaimitz into thirds to cover A, B, and C, because that's what it's doing. There's all 3 parts in the bowl. What's really happening is that the kaimitz is really supposed to be only divided into 2, because half an isarn and another half an isarn. But because there's 3 half israinis in the bowl, israinim, in the bowl. So then it's really getting divided into 3 parts, into thirds. Now, because it's not supposed to be divided into thirds, it's supposed to be divided into halves, So the extra third really should be divided in half, which becomes 2/6. Throw 1/6 onto the 1/3. Throw another 6 onto the other third, which that would become a half. A third plus a sixth is a half. And then each one would become mutter. But because you think that there's 3 Yisrainim in this bowl, and you think it's supposed to cover all of them, so even the first one is missing 1/6 of its kaimetz to cover it. Yeah, that's what it says. It's missing. So even the first one you shouldn't be able to eat from.
I thought you can never break down the kaimitz. Yeah,
you're not. It's all in theoretically. Well, like where's it? What is this kaimetz being used for? That's one question. Ikadanka the kaimetz like karev. You have a half of a third, which is a sixth, which is not being brought for the mincha that you're using. Another question. How could you even bring this kaimetz? How could you offer it up? You have 1/3 of this kaimetz that's not even part of the mincha, because it's covering the other third half, which is chulin. Ravashi says, it's like, thank you for your 2 questions, but kaimetz bedaita the kain tal yemilsa v'kain kikametz yisrain kikametz. The kaimetz has to do with the intention of the kain, and the kain never had in mind the third half. So therefore, he answers Rav Papa's question. He answers Rav Yitzchak Beider Mesharsh's question. He says regarding the third half, you're worried that there's that the kaimetz was covering that. and then therefore you're missing part of the kain. He says, no, the kain never had in mind that. He only had in mind two. Now, which two? That's a problem. But definitely the one that he took the kaimitz from is going to be acceptable. You're worried about that the kaimitz is going to have also 1/3 of the kaimitz is really chulin because it's going on that other one that's not part of the mincha. He says, no, that's not a problem. The kain didn't have in mind that other part, so the kaimitz is fully intact. Okay. No, we said that the vessel wouldn't combine something that's not part of it, right? New Mishnah. And Daf Chav Hey. Nitma kaimet v'krivo. The kain became tummy and he offered it. Hatzitz meratza. You're fine. The tzitz, which is the front plate of the kain gadol, covers that type of sin. Therefore, the carbon is going to be acceptable. You'll be able to eat even the shirayim. It's fully kosher. It's a special dispensation that we have for things that become tamei because of the tzitz of the kain gadol. It covers that type of infraction.
So the sitz makapeh are things, not just people. Seems to be saying that.
That's what it seems like. It's meratza. It's meratza. It causes an appeasement for the sacrifice. Yeah.
Wow.
That we'll see soon. We'll see soon if it matters, if it's knowing. The Gemara is going to discuss it. Yatsa Vikrivel, let's say the kaimitz went out of the temple courtyard, then he brings it back in and he tries to offer it up. The Einatzitz Meratza, that's not going to be satisfactory. That's going to be an invalid sacrifice. Shehatzitz Meratza ala Tame Beina Meratza ala Yaitse. The tzitz only atones, it only appeases for something that was Tame, it doesn't appease for something that left the area. Taner Rabbanan, Taner Nebraisa, the Gemara starts. Aaron will carry the sin of the holies. Which sin does he carry? Carrying a sin is an expression for an atonement. He'll bear the sin. It means he'll give an atonement. Is my sin too great to bear? Right when Cain tells Hashem.
My mother used to tell me that when I was little. Don't worry. Take this sin. Would hear it from other people.
If you say that maybe what sin is Aaron going to carry? Maybe it's pigel. I have a pasuk that says it's not going to be considered. It means it can't be accepted. Maybe it's the avain of nicer of leaving it over at Ibergablivana. It says that it won't be an appeasement. Oh, it's only coming to appease the sin of impurity because we have a special dispensation anyway for impurity when it comes to a community sacrifice that everyone was impure, you still bring the sacrifice. So we see that has a dispensation, so therefore that will also be an appeasement when Aaron has the tzitz. Maskav le Reb Zera has a question on this. It says, you're looking for something that has a dispensation, and then we're going to say that the tzitz that Aaron wears is going to cover it. So maybe the dispensation is yaitse. There's a dispensation by yaitse if it leaves the temple courtyard, because there were special halachas about a bama that sacrifices during certain eras were allowed to be brought outside the temple, and so here it left the temple. Well, so what? There were other times it's allowed to leave the temple when there was no temple, right?
But there was no tzitz then either.
No, there was there could have been a tzitz, there could have been a kain gadol, but whatever the case is, don't worry about that. What we're saying is that now that there's a tzitz, you see that the tzitz would cover the sin of it leaving the temple because we had dispensations for it in other places. Amalei Abaya Amar Kra l'ratzain lehem lifnei Hashem avain de lifnei Hashem in avain de yitzilai. It covers the sin that's in front of Hashem. So you see, in front of Hashem. Not something that left from Hashem. Maskefla Rabbi Loi. Rabbi Loi has a question. This is an Amayra Rabbi Loi, not Tana. Maybe it's the sin of using the left hand, because we have a dispensation for the left hand on Yom Kippur when he goes in with the fire pan in one hand, with the keteris in the other, right? And he has the spoon. He has to take it from the this and the that and then put it. So he has to use his left hand. You see. So since we have a dispensation, maybe that should be an atonement for using the left hand. We're talking about a sin that has a dispensation for, which means it was pushed away because of a special scenario. The left hand on Yom Kippur is not even a sin at all. That's the way it's supposed to be. There's a difference between a sin that gets pushed off and the way it's supposed to be done. Usually you don't.
The oil with the Mitzvah, we said the God slowly.
Right. That was the way that it's supposed to be done. That's not considered a dispensation. Okay. Well, Rav Ashi Amar Avena Kadashim v'lei Avena Makdishim. Over there, it's the left hand. It's the person that's offering it that would need the atonement. But here, we're dealing with the Avena Kadashim. We're looking at something that's in the item itself, not a problem with the kayan that's doing it. So what would be a problem in the item itself would be if the kaimetz itself became tamei. Amar le Rav Simi Breder Ravid le Rav Ashi, Rav Simi Breder Rav Ashi le Rav Ashi. It's either Rav Sima Breder Ravid, he says to Rav Ashi, or it's Rav Sima the son of Rav Ashi says to Rav Ashi. He says to his father, maybe the sin that we're talking about is the sin of bringing a sacrifice that has a blemish, because we have a dispensation for that when it comes to birds. Amar Mar, we have a brisa, master taught. Tamas v'zachrus b'beim vein tamas v'zachrus b'ifus. There's only the laws of a bird don't include which gender the bird needs to be, and also doesn't include which if it can have a defect. Birds can have defects. They can't be missing a limb, but they can have a cut here, a cut there, and still considered acceptable. So if you have a dispensation by birds, then we should also say that same law when it comes to the tzitz being an appeasement, the front plate being an appeasement in front of Hashem for the sacrifice. Regarding that, we already have a pasuk that says that it will not be an appeasement; it should not be brought.
I just want to mention that Rav Ashi's kid was the last of the Amoraim. That's the last generation of Amoraim.
Uh-huh.
So, we're always way up high in this and that, and now we're at the end
of the line. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, starting in the Brisa. Dam Shenitma. On the chart it says Rav Sima, and it has Mar.
No, it doesn't say, but Rav Ashi,
Rav Ashi
his
right.
students, and that's it.
Right.
So.
Tana Rabbanan, Dam Shenitma V'Zarku. The blood that became tamei.
Yeah, you're right. It says Mar Bar Rav Ashi.
Mar Bar Rav Ashi, yeah. Rav Sima is another son that's not so common. The Kayan sprinkled blood that got tamei. B'shaygig. Shaygig is talking about that it became tamei b'shaygig. Yeah, there's two ways of learning this. Did it become tamei b'shaygig or did he sprinkle it b'shaygig? Anyway, whatever the case is, hurtza, that's acceptable. Because we rely on the tzitz, that's an appeasement. And you would be allowed to eat the flesh of that sacrifice. But mazid, if it was done intentionally, then loy hurtza. Then it's not an appeasement. This is what Dr. Stein was mentioning before. But when do we say that this applies? There's a difference between mazid, shaygig and mazid. Shaygig works, mazid doesn't work. That's only by a private sacrifice. But if it's a community sacrifice, then whether it's b'shaygig or it's b'mezid, doesn't matter. Tzibur is more lenient. It's going to be an appeasement. Let's say a non-Jew sends a sacrifice and the blood becomes tamei from the non-Jew sacrifice. Bein b'shoigeg, bein b'mezid, bein b'oines, whether it was balkarche, bein b'ratzin, whether it was willingly. In any of these cases, lo yhortza. It's not considered good. Why? Because it says l'ratzain lahem, and be appeasement for them, referring to the Jewish people. It doesn't say it's appeasement for a non-Jew. Baramini, the Gemara is a contradiction. Alma tzitz meratza. When does the tzitz? When does it appease? What for? What does it appease for? Al adam al abasav al chaylev shenitma. Bein b'shayg, bein b'mis, bein b'inus, bein b'ratzim, bein b'yachid, bein b'tzibur. We see that even by an individual sacrifice, the same thing applies. Whether it's mezid also. We learned before that only the Tanur Rabbanan, right? It was the Tanur Rabbanan. Tanur Rabbanan tells me that there's a difference by a yachid, by a private individual, if it's b'ratzon, if it's b'shegeg or b'mezid. Now we have another brisa that says that there's no difference. Rav Yosef says like kasha. Rav Yosi, Rabbanan. Rav Yosef says, we answer the brisa, we'll say that one is the opinion of Rav Yosi, one is the opinion of Rabbanan. Rav Yosi is a student of Rabbi Akiva, Rav Yosi ben Chalafta, and Rav Yosef is a teacher of Abaya, friend of Rabbah, 200 years apart, probably. So Rabbi Yosef says that it's following Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi says that he's more lenient about if it's b'mezid. The Tanya started in a brisa, ein tarmin menatami ala tarvim tarim b'shogeg shumasi truma. You can't take truma from something that's tamei and as take the truma and take it for something that's tar. But if you did, then it's going to be truma. That's only b'mezid. If it's done b'mezid, ain't shumasi truma. There's a knas. The sages put a penalty. They said that the truma, it's not even truma. Rabbi Yosi says that we don't make a penalty on the mezid, and so therefore Rabbi Yosi would also say that payas, that even if the blood became tamei, b'mezid, even by yachid, it would still be appeased by the tzitz. Mara asks, how could you say that the brisa is referring to the opinion of Rabbi Yosi? I'm sorry. Do you think that the tzitz is going to be an appeasement for something that the kayanim are going to eat? It's a strange term here, achilas, because the kayanim don't eat it anyway if it's tummy. The only question was, do you sprinkle the blood? Okay, so basically, it will make a difference between truma and the sacrifice. We found that Rabbi Yosi doesn't make a knas by the truma, but to say that about sprinkling the blood and etc. Does Rabbi Yosi say that we don't make a distinction? But Tanya, we have a brisa. It says Rabbi Lezer, I'm a tzitz meratza alachilas. Rabbi Lezer says that the tzitz does work. And Rabbi Yosi Aimer ain't a tzitz meratza alachilas. That it doesn't work. The tzitz doesn't appease. And what were we referring to here? It must be referring to when it's b'mezid. The Gemara says eipach. The way we can resolve contradictions like this is you flip around the opinions and you say, Rabbi Lezer me'ein tzitz meratza alachilas, Rabbi Yosi a tzitz meratza alachilas, that it will be an appeasement. Okay. Ask Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes has a question. Are you able just to flip around the brisa and switch the opinions of Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yosi? But Tanya, we have a brisa yachal basar shenitma. Maybe the flesh that became tummy. Before the blood was sprinkled. You chayav malay mishum tuma. Maybe a person should be a chayav for eating it because of tuma. eating a sacrifice that's tummy. There's a problem of eating a sacrifice that's tummy. There's some problems here because the prohibition of kares. We say you're chayav, and we think we're dealing with kares. The prohibition of kares is really on when the kayin is tamei and he eats the flesh. Here we're talking about that the flesh is tamei. We're thinking that there's kares also, so it doesn't fit perfectly. But the Brisa says, perhaps I could have said that flesh that becomes tamei and someone eats it before the blood was sprinkled should be chayiv because it's tamei. Talmud kol tar yechel basar. V'nefesh shetechel basar mizeh v'chashlam mashel Hashem v'tamasei alav v'nichrasa hanita l'tahirim chayavin alav mishum tuma. She'ina nita l'tahirim ein chayavin alav mishum tuma. The only thing that there's a prohibition of, where you'll have the prohibition of kares, if someone tamei eats it, that would only be something that was eligible to be eaten that's now tamei. But over here, before the blood was sprinkled, no one can eat it. So then you're not going to be chayiv. Perhaps the Brisa continues. Maybe this is only referring to types of sacrifices that are not eligible to be eaten because they were left overnight, or maybe they left the azara, that those can't be eaten. Where it says Tamalei Mashel Hashem Riba. It says Ashel Hashem, that's coming to include more things. So there will be, for those things, there will be, if once the blood was sprinkled, even if you have the problem of it being left overnight, or it left the temple, then the laws of kares will still go on this since it's eligible, since it was eligible to be eaten at one point. Yachol Animar Shiachol Shanimar Besibigulam Asanisaris. Maybe I should include also someone that's tamei, that eats pigel, or that eats nicer, should also be chayiv kares. 1 second, the Gemara says, nisares hainulan. What do you mean nicer? Nicer is when is the case before where you said if it's left overnight. That we said ibrigul b'mina. Ella afa pigulan kinaiseres. Maybe I should include pigel just like nicer, that the person tamei that eats them should be chayiv kares. Talmud laimar mizebach hashlamim miyat. Now the truth is that if he's eating pigel or nicer, there's kares anyway. But I guess we're asking a question, kares from what? Aveira. It says mizebach hashlamim miyat, only from mizebach hashlamim, but not things that were puzzle. Umari isa l'rabisis elu l'haitzis elu. The Brisa says, why did you include kares for lawn if it was left overnight, or if it left the temple, there's kares? And why did you exclude pigel from kares? Someone tamei that eats, right? Tamei that eats pigel. So the Gemara says, achashriba kasav niyat, because we have an inclusion and an exclusion. So amrit marban yaselo shaislam shasa kaisher. I'm going to include the ones that had a time of eligibility. Maitzani yaselo shlayaslam shasa kaisher. And I'll exclude one that never was eligible at all. That's the one of pigel. Bim taimar. The Brisa concludes. It says, and if you'll say, if the flesh became tamei before the zrika, and then they did the zrika, and then he eats it after the zrika, this flesh never was eligible because before the zrika you weren't allowed to eat it. After the zrika, it's tamei. It was tamei before as well. But now we're going to say that there's still going to be kares, but it was never eligible. You're telling me that only things that are eligible are there's going to be kares. The answer is because the tzitz is an appeasement, which makes it considered like it's eligible, even though it's not. So therefore, the zrika is going to be kosher. The zrika is going to be kosher. Now the Gemara explains nitma in, but yotzei light. When is there going to be? When do we say that there's a chi of kares if someone eats it when he's tamei. That's only if it became tamei before the zrika, and he eats it after the zrika because it was eligible. We consider it a regular sacrifice that's eaten by someone that's tamei, which is kares. But yoitze, but if it left the temple before the zrika, and then someone tamei eats it after the zrika, we say because it's invalid already, we say that there is no kares on it. He's like, then he's not going to be chayav kares. Man shamat leidamar ein zrika me'els liyoitze. Who's the opinion that holds that zrika doesn't help yoitze? I don't know if you remember this from before, but we had this in passing before. It's Rabbi Eliezer.
Rabbi Eliezer.
Oh, very good. That's exactly what I wanted to say. It's Rabbi Eliezer. So, uktani, the maratza tzitz alachilas. And nevertheless, we saying that the tzitz does appease. Saying is that it's impossible to turn the brisa around from Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yossi, because over here it says if you turn the brisa around, what happens is Rabbi Eliezer Reimer eina tzitz maratza alachilas. The tzitz doesn't appease for the eating of the flesh. But here we have Rabbi Eliezer saying that the tzitz does appease for the eating of the flesh. Because who's the one that says that zrika works for yaitze? Is Rabbi Eliezer. And Rabbi Eliezer says zrika does not work for yaitze. Zrika doesn't work for yaitze. So then Rabbi Eliezer has to be the one that says that the tzitz is maratza lachilas, just like our Mishnah, just like the brisa that we had before. Elam Rav Chisda like kasha. So we have to go back to the original contradiction between the two brisas, where we said, is there a distinction between Mazid, Shegig, and Mazid by a Yachid? So Rav Chisda says like kasha, ha Rabbi Eliezer v'ha Rabbanan. It's machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan. Now we'll say like this: according to Rabbi Eliezer, the tzitz is meratza, even if it's b'mezid, and according to the Rabbanan, it's not. Eimad deshamet le Rabbi Eliezer the meratza tzitz alachilas the leikanis. The leikanis mishamet le. Maybe we could say that Rabbi Eliezer holds that the tzitz is merely meratza. But to say that if the blood was sprinkled b'mezid, will we say that Rabbi Eliezer will accept that? Where it says he will accept it. The same way you wanted to answer before for Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi holds that the tzitz is going to be meratza. We'll say the same thing for Rabbi Eliezer. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Reimer, bein b'shegig bein b'mezid, trumasi truma. Rabbi Eliezer says that if someone that takes truma from tamei on tahar, we said whether it's shegig, whether it's mezid, the truma is considered good. Ema deshamat leila Rabbi Eliezer truma tequila kachim dechamir mishamat le. Will he say the same thing by truma by kachim that's more chamer than truma? Gemara says in Cain ha aman tirmei. How else do you want to answer this? It's sort of like the compelling way of answering this question is by saying that you don't have any other answer, so you're going to have to say this. Ravina has a different teretz to the contradiction between the two brises about if we say the tzitz is meratze by a yachid, even b'mezid. It says to masai bein b'shegig bein b'mezid. Hortza. To masai bein b'shegig bein b'mezid hortza. Zrikasai, if he made it tamei, or if he became tamei, then whether it's b'shegig bein b'mezid, it's going to work. The first bride we're talking about zrika, sprinkling the blood. Shegig hortza b'mezid le hortza. There's a distinction between what the shegig was on. Was it the shegig on becoming tamei? Was the shegig on sprinkling the blood? If it's becoming tamei, So we say that there's no difference b'shegeg or b'mezid. It's going to be an appeasement. But if the sprinkling of the blood was b'shegeg, that's going to be acceptable, but not b'mezid. If he sprinkles the blood b'mezid, even knowing that it's tamei, then that's a problem. Rav Shila Amar, Rav Shila gives another teretz, exactly the opposite. He says, Rikasai, bein b'shegeg, bein b'mezid hortza. Sprinkling the blood, a shegeg mezid is going to be an appeasement. So Masai, b'shegeg hortza, b'mezid lei hortza. But when becoming tamei, making it tamei, that's going to be only b'shegeg. Rav Shila hadiktani nitma bein b'shegig bein b'mezid, but the Brisa says nitma. It doesn't say zarak. It says achikamer. Nitma b'shegig v'zarku bein b'shegig bein b'mezid. You have to add in the words talking about that. It's talking about zrika. Is that the stuff over here? No, there's one more piece. Tashema. So we get to the Mishnah. Tashema dam shenitma v'zarku. If the blood that became tamei and the kayin sprinkled it, b'shegig hortza, b'mezid loy hortza. If it was done b'shegeg, then it's appeased, and if it's done b'mezid, then it's not appeased. So it looks like we're talking about the sprinkling of the kayin. Problem is, Rav Shila said that it doesn't matter if it's b'shegeg or b'mezid. On the sprinkling of the kayin, it was always appeased. My answer is hachi kamar. Dam shenitma v'zarku, bein b'shegeg, bein b'mezid. It's going to be appeased. Nitma b'shegeg hortza, b'mezid lei hortza. Nitma b'zarku. If there's no difference between if the zrika was b'shegeg or b'mezid. Only difference is if nitma b'shegeg hortza, if it was nitma b'mezid then lei hortza, then it won't be an appeasement. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Thank you.
At the Mishnah, we got to the Mishnah.
Thank you.
Okay.
You should-
No.